guys, welcome to the 180 Challenge. I'm here with Ben Satterlee, and he's just giving us this Mozambique all over the place. Teach us, man.
All right. So the Mozambique pattern comes from Mozambique.
Yes, it does.
Shocker. And it's most famous because Gadd did it. He still does it very, very, very well.
Very well.
And he's the reason why I know how to do it, because Gadd's the man. And it's a very, very, very funky pattern. I like it because it's got a quarter note vamp, which is kind of rare in Latin music. Very rarely do you have something so regimented on the floor. Usually it's a lot more around and it's something more syncopated.
Yeah,
whereas this
yeah.
one, ba 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 ba. So, and it's absolutely really, really important that you have a good bell.
Yes.
Cheap, expensive, doesn't matter, but you have to have something. So for this one, it's all about the bell. So
All about the bell.
It's all about the bell. And slowed down, this is the rhythm on the bell.
I love that pattern, man.
Yeah.
And really, there's a lot of doubles happening in that pattern.
Yeah. And also, another thing you notice is that I'm not always playing tip. I'm not always playing shoulder. Like, I'm not always playing on the mouth. I'm not always playing on the top. I go, let me see if I can break it down.
Yeah. So we've got down, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down.
Yeah. Oh! It's a mouthful, and I never really realized how much I'm really doing until I had to break it down slowly. So, and then when you're playing it between the snare, it really becomes a whole other thing because you're playing a lot of ghosted notes.
Yes.
So it sounds like this.
I guess one simple way to think of the actual up-down is anytime there's a double, we're going from up to down on a double. Anytime it's a single, we're just playing it down. And why don't you talk a little bit about the way you're actually hitting the bell? Because that's super important too.
I'm using a lot of finesse when I'm playing. I'm not muscling through that. That's not something you can even do with this pattern. It lends itself to this very relaxed, laid-back feel. And especially when you get into the faster tempos, man, you really, really have to be relaxed. So I'm not using very much velocity. I'm really only hitting it just enough to get a sound out of it.
Very cool. All right.
Yeah, so let me try to like slow down and really like pinpoint how hard I'm hitting that.
Awesome, man, that's great. And I love for this lesson, we've intentionally left the overhead cam on because we want in every shot to be able to kind of capture what's going on with that overhead, because we want to be able to see you talk, but it's so important to be able to see a lot of what's going on with that. So why don't you again play it even slower and just show us that up technique, how you're hitting that.
So I'm really just,
super light.
Yeah, just enough to really get a sound. So you can really think of it as that. It's kind of ghosted too.
Awesome. That's great, man. Love that. Okay, very cool. So we're learning from this. We're taking our time, really focusing on just that hand pattern. And then would you start from there? Would you add the bass drum in? Would you begin to build the left hand in?
I'd add the bass drum in. So you're playing off that, and then we'll add in the snare.
Very cool. Very cool, man.
One of the things I'd like to mention is that there's not one cut and dry way to play the bell pattern.
Sure.
That's just how I do it.
Yeah.
It's mostly the accents that I'm worried about. And when I say accents, I mean whatever you're playing on the bell.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to play down, down, as opposed to up, down, up, that's all secondary. You can even play it straight if you wanted to, and that would sound like this.
Gotcha.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, so much of this culture, anything when we're talking about Latin influenced rhythms or whatever, we often find ourselves, there's a lot of room. And it's not necessarily room for error, it's more like room for music, room for expression.
Right.
It's awesome.
And room for interpretation.
Yes.
So on this first example, we're going snare on all of them except for the of 3. That's going to be on the rack tom.
Okay.
Okay? So slowed down, this is what it sounds like.
Dude, that sounds killer. Do you want to slow that down even more?
Sure. I'd also like to note how ghosted these snare hits are.
Yes. Yeah, so they're super low.
Yes.
And you're playing them a little bit in the center to get a drier tone, but you'd experiment with that as well,
Absolutely. Right? I could play them out towards the edge and get a little bit more of a ring. I mean, there's not one right or wrong way.
Absolutely. Man, loving this pattern. That's a lot to develop. Would you maybe break this into sections?
Yeah. One thing, because the kick drum is, on this one, although it's absolutely paramount to the groove, it's just quarter notes. So you don't really have to worry about that.
Yeah.
So I'd make sure that the hands are happening. So maybe if I can break that down, what those are doing. Just the hands.
Great. Yeah, that's where I would probably, when I go to work on this for myself, because we were talking about this, I actually don't know the Mozambique super well. At one point, I did write out the way Gadd was doing it, and I practiced it a ton. It was like 2 years ago, and I haven't really done it much since.
Right.
Probably
It's not something I use on the regular. It's just
Yeah.
something that I really like to do when I can.
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds amazing. And I would, as I work on this again, I'm going to isolate my hands and probably just sit there. For myself, I had a student last night, and one of the things that I was talking about is the significance of just counting very slowly with something. And when I try and learn stuff, I try and play it right every single time. From the very first time I play it, I go slow and try and make sure that I play it right and articulate, paying attention to all the accents, everything.
Yeah.
You have to really play slow that way.
Yeah.
And really slow down, and it doesn't sound musical for a little bit.
Yeah.
But that way I'm not training myself the wrong pattern and then having to break a habit as I'm learning the groove.
Right. Yeah. You know what's funny? Like, as I've done this, there's certain grooves that don't feel right till a certain tempo.
Yeah.
Before that, there's like, okay, that's a blues shuffle, but at 50 BPMs, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Whereas at 75, all of a sudden you're like,
right.
there it is,
Yeah,
you know? And this is kind of one of them. That wouldn't feel right as it would at like 120 or 140. So
if you can learn to get comfortable with that stuff at some of the slower tempos to some extent,
it's gonna make everything you do feel so much better because you're evenly spacing those massive gaps.
Yeah.
So for example 2, now we're gonna move around the toms a little bit.
Okay.
So the first note is on the snare, the second note is on the floor, the third snare hits on the rack tom, and the fourth snare hits back to the floor.
So we're taking the same pattern, not adding anything or taking anything away, just moving it around.
Right, and what's funny is that we're kind of doing a pseudo bass rhythm.
Huh.
So it sounds a little something like this. So we have a boom, 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 which is similar to what a bass player would already be playing. So we're just kind of comping that.
Very cool. Do you want to demo that on the bell now?
Absolutely.
This is some practice video stuff, man. That's some stuff that's going to take some time to develop, which is why I love that we actually have the practice videos. We get to practice along to take it slow.
Right.
Because that is not easy. All right, so that idea, again, we're just moving it around. Now, what's happening with number 3 that's different?
Okay. Examples 3 and 4, the only difference is that we're just taking 1 and 2 and adding a flam to the very first note.
Very cool.
But this one's different because it's a flam between the bell and the snare.
Okay.
So we're not flamming between any other toms. We're just flamming between that.
All right.
So it makes it sound different. So example 3 is the same as example 1 with a flammed snare on the very first note.
All right. Now we should note, this is a little bit of a Gadd-ism.
This is a very Gadd-ism. In fact, I completely copped that from Gadd.
Yes.
He's the reason why I do a flam in a lot of my Mozambique patterns.
If you guys aren't hip to Steve Gadd and you haven't seen him yet, well, I'm actually very excited for you because you're going to have a new favorite drummer.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Yeah. Unreal.
Go check out Steve Gadd. Go watch, Zildjian Day with Vinny Coyote, Dave Weckl, and Steve Gadd. And watch how it gets to Steve Gadd, and he plays the simplest thing, and it's like the whole room stops.
Yeah, and what's funny is, it's funny you mentioned that. The Mozambique is what they jam off of.
Yep.
All those guys are doing blah, 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 and he goes, and the room just starts just losing their minds.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so example 4 is the exact same as example 2. Now we're going snare, floor, rack, floor, snare, floor, rack, rack, flat, floor. Except for we're adding that flam.
So really, if we can learn the first pattern, everything after that's just built on that.
Right,
All we've done is move that around and added a flam and moved it around again.
Exactly.
Awesome. All right. That's a beautiful thing, my friend. That sounds beautiful. Awesome, man. So we've got that now for 5 and 6. All we've done is we've taken, for 5 exactly, we've taken 1 and 3.
That's right. So we're just doing the same pattern, and then we're adding a flam to the beginning of that pattern.
Very cool. I love that, man. That sounds great. So now for 6, we're just taking 2 and 4.
2 and 4. So now we're doing the pattern where we start doing floor, high, floor, and then we add that flam and do the same thing again.
Amazing how much that flam breaks up those 2 patterns.
Man, yeah.
Whew. All right, take it away. Ben, I love this. Let's head to the practice video. Let's work on these ideas. I know for myself, I'm super excited to develop them and spend some time to just slow everything down. This is something that it's taken you years to really build this up.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the whole prior knowledge thing. You have so much other influence of reggae and Latin rhythms that for you, learning this kind of stuff may have even been quicker. But for guys like myself who don't have a ton of that, gotta take our time.
Yeah.
We gotta go slow.
I have no idea why I even learned. I think it was just Gadd.
Oh,
I was like, that's just so cool. I can't not know that.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
All right, why don't you play us out?
All right.
We'll head to the practice video.